Hi everyone, and welcome back to the neighborhood. Today, we're taking a look at a rather unique IEM, the Tri i3 Pro. The non-pro version of this IEM was a little bit of a mess by all accounts, but this is an interesting IEM to me, at least from a driver configuration standpoint, as it consists of three different drivers, a planar, a dynamic driver, and a balanced armature. And as it turns out, this IEM has not only a unique configuration, but also a unique sound. So let's get into it. The build here is solid. It consists of a metal shell with a flush 2-pin connection. The shell itself fits ergonomically in the crevice of my ear, and it was neither too large nor too small, neither too heavy nor too light. If I had one criticism here, it would be that the nozzle is a bit too long. It did not cause the IEM to jut out of my ear too much or anything like that, but it did feel it was at the limit for nozzle length that I would prefer. The i3 Pro comes with a variety of tip options, including a flimsy gray silicone and a clear silicone set with colored bores, which was somewhat less flexible and more in line with what I would expect from a silicone tip of this type. Both sets of tips sounded good with this set, but I found the gray, less rigid set to be mildly fatiguing to my ears over the course of long listening sessions, and ended up preferring the more rigid, colored bore set of tips in the course of my testing. I had no problem listening to these for hours with this tip instead. The IEM also came with a nice 3.5mm terminating woven pure copper cable with, again as I've already stated, a flush 2-pin connection and silver hardware matching the shell of this IEM. A brown leather carrying case with a magnetic fastener, plastic cleaning brush, and a microfiber cloth were also included in this set. In terms of their sound, these are not going to be for accuracy junkies, as the sound here, like this IEM driver's configuration, is relatively unique. Having said that, it's also very detailed for the price range, somewhat effortless in its delivery, and extremely immersive in its overall presentation. With that said, the soundstage isn't particularly huge, and I will err on the side of caution by saying that it's circular in shape and somewhat on the intimate side of things. Nevertheless, imaging, transients, and decay are top-notch and very natural, contributing to the listener's sense of immersion as I referenced earlier. There isn't a ton of space for the listener to behold, but instrument distinctiveness is never in question, and spacing between both individual musical notes and instrumentation was most excellent. These also tracked particularly well to my ears. The i3 Pro is also a standout in the categories of peripheral detailing and vocals. Both vocals and peripherals are somewhat more forward and somewhat bigger in their scope than the rest of the mix, so for someone that's after this type of presentation, these will be the ticket for them. So I wouldn't say that these are a recording accurate set. Instead, they embellish aspects of the recording in pleasurable ways. I was particularly struck by how well these did with singer-songwriter pieces, where the music consists of just a singer and a guitar. I was able to hear nuanced detail in acoustic pieces that I hadn't noticed before, such as the unintentional buzz of a guitar string or the sound of the guitar pick itself sliding across or striking the strings. Sounds that normally would fade into the background are suddenly right in front of your eyes for plain view with these. Having said that, these don't beat you over the head with detail either, but I would never describe the i3 Pro as an acoustic or harsh set to one's ears, even though they are somewhat detail forward in their character. Regarding the sound profile, the bass presentation here is more of a sub-bass focused affair than a mid-bass champion. Even so, these do not extend to the deepest depths of the sonic range, and there is some notable roll-off in the lower portions of the frequency response, say around 27 Hz or so to my ears. The overall bass presentation was somewhat softer than I expected, but general dynamics were sufficient and without fatigue. The mid-range is detailed, mildly forward in its character, and mostly pushed up in front of the listener, although there is some variance in the forwardness depending upon the track or frequency region of the instrumentation. The treble extended well enough, and I was never reaching to hear treble information, but like the lower portions of the bass frequency, there was a certain ceiling to the treble performance here as well, and I would never consider this set's presentation as sparkling to my ears. Priced at around $200, the Tri-i3 Pro is definitely a unique set from its driver configuration to its enjoyable sound and uncommon acoustic presentation. Did I mention that these have a planar magnetic driver as part of their driver array? Certain audiophiles seem to flip for that, and these may actually be my favorite planar magnetic IEM to date. Regarding sourcing, unlike other planar IEMs I have experienced to date, these were less than amplification dependent, sounding almost as sophisticated off of my phone as they did when being driven off of more powerful or more expensive amplification. None of the drivers, including the BA, were particularly sensitive either, and I did not detect anything other than a black background off the devices that I tested. In terms of the Tri-i3 Pro, you get more than what you pay for in my opinion, and the set itself appears rugged, well built, and is serviceable with what it comes with right out of the box. Nevertheless, the overall picture here is more enjoyable than recording accurate, even if I know a bunch of audiophiles myself that are in search of a mid-forward set which emphasizes a vocal presentation without bass dynamics getting in the way. If you're one of those, then the Tri-i3 Pro might just be what you're looking for. It's definitely an IEM that I will keep in my collection and use often, even if it's not something that I would use on an everyday basis for myself. For me, its tonality is just a little bit too warm for that. And just a reminder guys, make sure to hit subscribe here, like the video, leave some comments, and follow the channel at all its other access locations, including the Twitter, the blog, the Discord, or become a member of the Patreon. This review was up on the Patreon for quite some time before I got around to making this video. So if you're interested in the first takes of all my reviews, then make sure to look at the Patreon and subscribe for only $1.50 a month. You won't regret it if you do. And with that, I'm out for now.